So the director of Skyfall, Sam Mendes, brings James Bond back for a slightly tonally different sequel by the name of Spectre. A cryptic message from the past sends British secret agent James Bond on a rogue mission to Mexico City, where his actions cause an international incident. Bond is removed from active duty in light of a new world intelligence organization threatening the very existence of MI6. However, with help from Q, 007 disappears off the map to Rome, where he discovers the sinister organization known as Spectre, and becomes hunted in the process by the brutal Mr. Hinks. Bond is soon forced to seek out Madeleine Swan, the daughter of his old nemesis Mr. White, who may lead him to untangling the far-reaching tentacles of Spectre. As Bond ventures towards the heart of this secret and dominating organization, a face from his past brings forth chilling revelations that may alter everything he knew and put the entire world into the frightening grip of Spectre. So indeed, this is the fourth film we've gotten from Daniel Craig as James Bond, and I think it would be kind of interesting here to give a little bit of background on my history with his end of the franchise. Obviously, when Daniel Craig was originally announced for the role of James Bond, there was a whole lot of skepticism going around, not having a lot of people being very faithful in his ability to actually embody the role of James Bond. But by the fact that Casino Royale ranks as my number one favorite Bond movie of the ones I've seen so far, pretty much says everything you need to know in that regard. But after we got Casino Royale, which I thought was an excellent film, we get Quantum of Solace, which really doesn't hold up very well because I watched it for only the second time ever this week, and it still comes off as a very lifeless and soulless epilogue to the fantastic events of Casino Royale. I think a lot of cases that film just falls off and does not put itself together in a very good and solid fashion to be very entertaining or very cohesive and strong storyline overall. But then, of course, we've got Skyfall, which practically everyone loved unconditionally, but I did have a few problems. If you want to go back and read my old written review from when the film was released, you can get a little more depth on that, but in general, I thought it was a damn good film. But I had certain problems with how oppressive the heavy and bleak, serious tone of the film really didn't organically allow it to open up for a lot of good humor or levity or a certain excitement level for it. It didn't have a lot of entertainment value. It was very tense, but I didn't feel like I had a fun time with the film. I like my Bond films to be fun, but still have a certain edge to them too, obviously by regard to some of the Blu-rays and DVDs I have over my shoulder showcasing some of my favorite entries in the franchise. Definitely shows where my tastes mainly lie, but when you get up to here, to Spectre, you got Sam Mendes coming back from Skyfall because it was such a tremendously huge success that he wanted to wait him out, get him back on the franchise, and have him back with a lot of faith from everyone involved to really deliver a very good, solid follow-up. And this is a slightly tonally different type of film that it does open up the tone a little bit. You can see right from early on in the film that they're just kind of lifting the tone up a little bit, allowing the levity and the charisma of the actors and the characters overall really kind of live a little bit more on screen, build up a little bit more chemistry, a little bit more rapport, just make it a little bit more fun here and there, but that doesn't discount the fact that there is still a lot of great thrilling and serious elements in the film. But it is a film that isn't quite as heavy on the substance as Skyfall was, that a lot of people probably come through. It's a nice, lighthearted, good, solid, thrilling type of film, but it doesn't quite have the weight or the meat on it that Skyfall did. So there's a certain balancing act that I think Skyfall is a little too much in the seriousness. This one might push the levity just a tad bit too far and might not have as much meat on the bone of the story as possible, but I think the film has a lot of great, interesting plot elements that try to weave a different type of tapestry through the life of James Bond that really kind of unfolds in very cool and kind of interesting type of mystery. I was very much invested in how this mystery is trying to unfold and everything. It just kept me hooked in the film with a very interesting type of pace. For the most part, the film is pretty well paced up to a certain point, and then they try to have Bond meet up with the villain and have a lot of exposition going on, which slows the pace down a whole lot, and then has to pick itself back up for the third act. So there's a certain thing where, if it was just trying to go for a very light and lean type of storyline, the pace that it really sets out for the majority of the film would have worked fine, but then you get a lot more heavier plot elements introduced in the film that just require a lot more, like I said, substance and meat and time to develop to their full fruition, to have them have the most emotional impact upon the story as possible. It's just the fact that all the elements get introduced too late in the film for the film to really kind of explore it in the amount of depth that it really requires. But it's one of those interesting things that there's a lot of give and take, like pros, and then there's a con involved with some of the things with the plot in the film that I think a lot of the things between James Bond and Léa Seydoux, the character of Madeleine Swann, are pretty well handled in this film, that there is a certain romance involved in a certain way, and they work off of each other very, very well. I thought she did a very spectacular piece of work in this film with the sort of lighter material that she had to work with. That a lot of the returning cast members, such as James Bond and Ralph Fiennes as M, Ben Whishaw as Q, and you get Naomie Harris as Moneypenny, I think they get a lot more substance to work with, and a lot more just overall to do in the film than I think a lot of the new characters really get time to really take the spotlight and flesh themselves out and be as meaty and important to the plot as possible. And there's a certain thing in this film that a lot of people are making the sort of distinction that there are certain plot elements that are very similar to Mission Impossible Rogue Nation in this film, with there being a secret global crime syndicate that has their hands into controlling everything, or your spy agency of choice, whereas the IMF or MI6 being deemed obsolete or out of control, so they're going to be either dissolved or merged into another organization to leave a lot of our heroes out in the cold, and all this type of stuff that really seems extremely similar, that is still well executed. And there's a little bit more focus on a team dynamic instead of just James Bond being out there on his own doing where he is in the field. He has a bit more of a team support in this film with Q and M and Moneypenny and such. So I thought that was a good thing about the film. I'm not complaining about it, but you can kind of get a certain sense that you could see Tom Cruise running around doing some of these action sequences with how the plot unfolds and certain elements of the plot really kind of get put together and everything. But I still think it's very well done. It just feels a little too similar to a film that was being made just about the same time. So it's like, it's kind of a pitfall that you really can't do anything, because happening at the same time, they really had no knowledge of one film's plot versus the other to really kind of realize that they're making very similar plots with very similar types of franchises here. But certainly one place that Bond still stands very strongly on his own are the action sequences, because this is a franchise that has defined and redefined action through numerous decades at this point, and I think Spectre has some really exceptional action sequences. I was very much hooked in right from the opening sequence of this film. I thought what they did in Mexico City was just an amazing action sequence. With, again, you always get those types of things where there's a certain rising action where things build up and one sequence on top of another, and I thought they did some amazing things in the opening action sequence. It was just very tense. I was very thrilled by it. I was really gripped into the film right from the beginning of it. Really enjoyed that, and also get the car chase in Rome, which I love that from the trailers. Just watching the visuals of that whole thing go down, and I really liked when they got up into the high mountains and everything with the snow and everything. Very, because I just watched For Your Eyes Only the other day, which had fantastic action sequences in snowy landscapes. Really enjoyed that film, and this really kind of delivered a lot on some great action sequences in that environment too. And just overall, there was a great sequence on the train where you got Dave Bautista as the character of Mr. Hinks, this lethal fucking assassin going after James Bond, just as this just like a classic Bond henchman, man, just tough as hell and just beating the shit out of Bond. I really enjoyed it. I really could have used more of Dave Bautista in this film, but hopefully maybe that means we'll see more of him in a future film, if maybe so. But still great action sequences throughout this whole film, that even the climax, I really did enjoy that too. Just again, just building action, rising action, the stakes building up higher and higher in this film. I really enjoyed all the action sequences, how they were very much plotted out, how much of them were shot. I just thought overall they were very good and very well executed type of things that, again, this is really what I like in a Bond film. Very exciting, exhilarating, fun action that just has a certain personality to it too, that I thought this film really kind of hit it on the mark and felt like very classic Bond action. I just think a lot of cases that it really just captures the classic Bond spirit with a lot of the action, a lot of the visuals too. I just thought everything came together and felt very good. And just, I really enjoyed the film on that level, but you also get some very good performances here. I mean, obviously, Daniel Craig still puts in a very solid performance, and I was like, again, brought some wit, some humor to the role, but still maintained a certain weight to it, too. Again, Léa Seydoux, a really good performance, and I really, really enjoyed Ralph Fiennes as them, because as soon as I knew in Skyfall that he was taking over that role, I was on board. I knew this was the perfect guy for the role, and he gets some really good stuff to work with in this film. I enjoyed every second he was on screen, absolutely, positively, and Ben Whishaw gets a little bit more chemistry and rapport to build up with Daniel Craig in this film, a little bit more wit and humor and whatnot. I really enjoyed that. It just felt like old throwback to Desmond Llewellyn. Just a lot of good things in this film overall, and we get Christoph Waltz as our main villain in the film, and I agree with a lot of other people that I do feel like he was underutilized. His character was not as strongly developed as possible because, like I said, it takes a long time for all these plot elements to kind of culminate in the film, where you get everything sort of revealed and explained and all that type of stuff, and then shortly thereafter you're going into the third act of the film, so it's like you don't really get that time to really kind of have Christoph Waltz really show the breadth of his acting muscle in this film, that he is having a good time. He's putting out a very good performance that is charismatic, a little bit witty, and just adding a little bit of intimidation factor here and there with his role overall. But his is a villain that shows a lot of potential for the future of this franchise that doesn't get the great amount of time to really get the breadth and depth and the strong vibrance to show through as a really great Bond villain in this outing. But I think a lot of this stuff in this film is very well done. That, again, it is a bit of a lighter, fair Bond action thriller, but I still think everything it does pretty damn well. I thought, again, the action, top-notch type of stuff. I do think that, again, the pacing kind of falls off here and there. And some people are complaining about the length of the film. I didn't have a problem with it. I thought, aside from that one lull in the whole film where it kind of slows down to develop the villain and pull the plot threads together, I thought the film was pretty well paced, and it didn't bother me how long it went on. But obviously it is a film that is leaner than it should be with its storyline, that, again, there's a lot of substance that can be pulled out of the elements that it introduces in this film, that the film doesn't take as much time as it should to really develop them for the greatest impact it could have on the franchise overall. But in general, I thought Spectre was a very good, entertaining film, that I really much enjoyed it. I'm sure certain people will be like, they were so blown away by Skyfall, everything it had to offer. They'll go in this film and find a little less than great, that it'd probably feel like they want something a little bit more heavier, a little bit more punch to its storyline and just its overall emotion, which this film has some emotion to it, but it's not quite as strongly prevalent as even Casino Royale had. But I still think it is a very good entry in this franchise, especially for Daniel Craig's tenure, that if he does, obviously he's been talking a lot of interviews and everything, that he's very much worn out. This was a very rigorous process making this film, and I can completely understand that. And it's like, as time has kind of passed between the end of production and now and everything, where he's doing interviews, he's a little bit more simmered down, where he kind of a bit more relaxed. He just wants to get a break from this because it's a very long, exhaustive process. So if he does decide that this is going to be his last entry in the franchise, so be it. I think he went out on a fairly good, enjoyable note, and a lot of good things to have in this film. I don't think it's a bad film to go out on at all. I'm sure a lot of people would say it's probably better than Die Another Day was for Pierce Brosnan, but regardless of that, whether it is his last film or not in the franchise, I think it is a good film. I definitely say it's leagues better than Quantum of Solace. I say it's just a good average Bond film that, like I said, I watched For Your Eyes Only the other day, and I think it'd probably be just about as good of a film. Overall, I could talk about Bond films here and there all day long, but Spectre alone,
it definitely gets my recommendation. Go see it, guys. You'll have a fun time with it. Know that it is not quite as heavy on the substance, a little bit more lighter, and a little bit more action-packed, a little more adrenaline in what's going for. So definitely say go check it out with that expectation and everything. I think you have a really good, fun time with it. And if you have seen Spectre already, definitely enjoy getting your comments about what you felt about the film overall. And if you are a big Bond fan, where would you generally kind of rank it in the franchise? Obviously, for a lot of people, you'd want to watch it a few more times and get it settled in a little bit more before you get a really solid rating. But at least with the Daniel Craig films, where do you feel this kind of lays in there for yourself? So definitely enjoy it. So go check it out, guys, if you haven't already. If you have, comments below, and thumbs up on the video if you enjoyed what you saw here. Spreading the links around your Twitters and your Facebooks and your Tumblrs, highly will appreciate it too. And I plan on doing my Predator franchise retrospective this month, and possibly Chronicles of Riddick. We've got Creed coming up in a few weeks. Good old Rocky Balboa spin-off that I think is going to be really damn good. I'm really excited for it. I plan to marathon at some point the whole franchise on Blu-ray. 6 films to get through, so not in one sitting, but eventually I'll sit down and watch each one of them before I get to that film. But we'll have Chronicles of Riddick next month. We've got In the Heart of the Sea, Star Wars: The Force Awakens, and hopefully, if I can get reach a limited screening of it, The Revenant. And also plan on, talking more Stallone here, plan to eventually get to the 4th Rambo film, and hopefully a few other interesting type of things, because around Christmas time we're getting that remake of Point Break. I'm going to do a review of the original film and detail exactly why it's one of my favorite action films of all time. So take care, guys. Thanks for watching. Spectre, thumbs up. Hope you give a thumbs up to the video too. So take care, guys. James Bond will return some point in the future, but for me, you'll see me soon again, very, very soon. So take care. Bye-bye.